Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurudeva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. A gentleman had woken up early in the morning and wanted to do his prayers as the sun rose. So he went outside and he was tired. It was early in the morning and he's setting up his mat and he's stretching and making himself comfortable, ready, focusing on his prayers. And all of a sudden, this girl comes running by and accidentally steps on his prayer mat and just keeps running. And he angrily shouts out at her. She just is lost in what she's doing. And so now he's sitting down, but his mind is still on the fact that she stepped on his mat and he woke up early and he's getting ready to pray, and all of these minutes passed like this, and he's trying to pray, but he keeps opening his eyes, out of this spite. So now this girl comes walking by again in the same path that she was running, and this man happened to have his eyes open, and he stopped her and said, what kind of person are you that I'm here, I'm ready to do my prayers, and you're running and you ran on my mat, and that's not respectful. And she says, I'm really sorry. I felt that someone was calling me and I thought of my husband and I know he was working in the field, so I just had to run over there. And I'm very apologetic. I had no intention behind this. And he still sensed that anger and he was still feeling frustrated. But then she said, can I ask you a question? He says, of course you can ask me a question. Why were you focused on me? You got up early to do your prayers and in front of nature, then how did you know that I walked on this mat? How did you know it was me that walked on this mat? How did you know that I was coming back? This story of this gentleman praying and this girl walking on the mat is actually you and I. The gentleman who's trying to pray is our symptom. We know this when we go to a temple, when we do puja. We're there, but we're not there. Like this gentleman. And this girl is our solution. That she's so lost in feeling for her husband that there is no other concern for her. So through this simple story that is humorous and serious, we will take up exploring what a spiritual family is. And this subject is more important because of how busy we are. Because the primary reason why we believe we cannot be a spiritual family is that there is no time. Even now, it's spring break, but there's still no time for students. There's no time for parents. Like this subject matter, I feel, is universal. Yet there's only some people who have made time for this, when I would believe that everyone should make time for this subject and all spiritual subjects, but definitively this one. We're just so busy. And not just the people online or the people here, but the people upstairs as well. Those little girls running around, they don't have time either. Part of it is your fault, part of it is their fault. Nobody has time. So keep that parameter in mind, and keep this story in mind, and we will bring all of this together. Think deeply about the difference between karma and karma yoga. We're all students of Gita, and theoretically we know what the difference is between karma and karma yoga, or action and action with attitude. And the difference there is the belief. In karma, I'm acting without belief, I'm just doing. But in karma yoga, I'm acting with belief. Belief in my family, belief in my community, society, whatever it may be. Doing, whereas I'm doing with belief. And it reminds me of a famous line from The Dark Knight, where the Joker openly says that I'm like a dog that barks at a car. I just do. There's no belief behind it. He just does. Think about the difference between a chemical compound and a placebo. The difference is the belief again. That this sugar pill is exactly the same as a chemical compound if I believe that this will help me to better myself. Now think deeply. What is the difference between a family and a spiritual family? Whenever we think of family, think about why you entered into the family life. Or you're planning to, let's say. What is the point of being a grihastha? And if we think about it deeply and honestly, because we can think about it deeply but still lie about it. But if we think about it deeply and honestly, it is to complete ourselves. We felt incomplete, so we thought that if I have a significant other and continue that lineage, whether it's children, in-laws, etc., that I will complete myself. So the question is, do you feel complete? Do you feel more complete with your significant other, with your children, with your relatives, etc., etc.? And most of you would, which shows that you already have a spiritual family. But if I enter into a family life but don't feel more complete, then it's a family and not a spiritual family. Think about the word spiritual. Spirituality is a study of the spirit. Chemistry is a study of chemicals. Physics is a study of the physical laws of the universe. We use the word spirituality often, but in a very fashionable way, without a lot of substance behind it. Spirituality is the study of the spirit, and the spirit is completeness. So a spiritual family is being in this circumstance with the aspiration to complete myself. And many of us, like I was saying, the difference between karma and karma yoga, it's just doing. We're supposed to get married. We're supposed to have kids. We're supposed to dislike our in-laws. We're supposed to do whatever we do. If we just are supposed to do it, being in a family is much, much, much harder. It's far easier just being by yourself. You don't have to worry about cooking as much, cleaning as much. You don't have to drive anyone around. Think about when your family's away from you. How simple living is, context-based. It's just you. I don't cook because I'm useless at it. Plus, food is very functional for me, which I think some people are coming to understand more. So when I cook ramen noodles. The packaged ramen noodles, not actual proper ramen noodles, just packaged ramen noodles. But if I were to cook for Sheila, that won't fly. Ramen noodles will not fly. I either have to learn how to cook something or I have to make money to go out to eat or whatever it will be. So it becomes harder if I'm just supposed to do that. See, if I lose track of why is spiritual family to complete myself, it's just harder. How much harder it is to drive on the 885 versus the 43. Right? There's nobody on the 43. Who knows why that road's even there? And the 885 says so many cars. So family is the same way. I just have people around me to tell me I'm wrong, to tell me to do things, to go there, spend there. But I'm doing this, but not with the vision to complete myself, but I'm just supposed to. And if we spin this into a Vedantic context specifically, you were studying Bhajagovindam. I think you got to shloka 12 or so. But if you go on to the further shlokas, Adi Shankaracharya ridicules those people who are undergoing austerity without knowing why they're undergoing austerity. You know, sleeping in the cold or with a fire in front of them and the sun behind them. But they don't know why they're doing that. So life is just harder for them. It's not completer, it's just harder. This vision has to be maintained of why we have become grihasthas. And I was sharing that today. A grihastha is someone who establishes a home. Not a house, but establishes a home because that becomes an expression of who they are. See our padukas here. We worship these padukas because it's easier to worship the padukas than it is to worship ourselves in a proper way. We keep forgetting that Guru Parampara, that presence of the Guru is within us. So if we express it through the padukas, then I can offer flowers and visualize. In the same way, if I have a mind that is impure, by establishing a home, it is an opportunity for me to purify my mind. By, let's say, going to work, even inviting guests, whatever it may be. This vision is most important if we forget this vision. And we are very good at forgetting. Lots of things. And the more subtle it is, the more we forget. Here's what happens, and I know we can all relate to this. When we are in our family life, and we don't have the vision of this family is an opportunity to complete myself, I become frustrated. And when I don't check frustration, what does it devolve into?
Anger.
Anger or bitterness. And why? Bitterness is worse than anger because in anger I can express it. In bitterness I just don't express it. So I suppress it, I suppress it, I suppress it. Like if I had a tooth that was infected, any of the food that you made today, especially the payasam, would taste terrible. Because that same taste of that infection, everything that goes in my mouth will have that same taint to it. So this bitterness, though it's happening at home, I become bitter all over the place then. At work, driving, watching a movie, whatever it is. When frustration is not checked, it devolves into bitterness. Now what happens if we don't check bitterness? What happens if we don't let go of that poison? It devolves more into isolation. Then I'm there, but I'm not there. What happens to you? I don't care. And that is the highest form of disregard. There was a report done by NPR where they said supervisors who criticize their subordinates, the subordinate feels better than if that subordinate is ignored. Because at least if I criticize you, I know that you exist. But ignoring you, I don't even acknowledge that you exist. What could be harsher than that? Like calling that person stupid, or just that person's not even here, I'm not even talking to them. That is a much harsher form of a relationship, or a pretend relationship. So frustration, bitterness, isolation. You can remember FBI. That's what happens. And we see people in, FBI agents are often like that. And they become like that when they forget their vision. They forget that they're serving their nation in whatever capacity. They get frustrated by the bureaucracy, they get bitter or corrupt, and then just isolation. They become rogues. They're the people who attack the FBI now. And this is not good to be recorded because now they're going to be... That's why I'm glad it's not my personal account. So the vision of a spiritual family is that the family should complete oneself. And that's the vision of spirituality. We know that we are incomplete. And that's only happens when we're deeply think about our life and are honest with ourselves. And it's not to be sad and, oh, I'm incomplete. But now I know this is the symptom. I should seek a solution. But if I don't know the symptom, I will still be incomplete but not be doing anything about it. So at least in honesty I can change. It reminds me of on a lighter note. So a gentleman, when he's just completed university, and he graduated with a commerce degree, and he started working as a financial analyst. And when he started working, then he had a lucrative job, and he found a nice place to live. And outside of this nice place was a homeless person. And he started receiving a lot of compensation. So every day when he would go back home, he would give this homeless person $10. He was receiving a lot. He decided to give a lot too. Then after he worked for some time, he was married. And then his wife moved in and so on and so forth. And when he would come home now, instead of giving $10, he would give $5 to this homeless person. And this carried on for some time, and then They soon had 1 child, 2 children, etc. And so when he would come home, he would then give $1. And from the $10 to the $5, and the beggar, the homeless person didn't say anything, but from the $5 to the $1, then after some time he questioned this gentleman. He said, hey, you used to give me $10, then at least $5, but now you're only giving me $1. And he said, first I was married, so $5, now I have children, $1, so I can't give more. He says, what kind of circumstance is this? You're running your home on my income. Well, like this beggar, his vision is that he's just entitled to all of this. We have to think more deeply about a spiritual family. Carrying along with this thought, when you look out into the universe, who are the happiest people? Or let me change the word. Who are the people that you believe are most complete? And if you look out into the universe and think about this, it tends to be images of Bhagavan, images of the Creator. We celebrate Mahashivratri. Lord Shiva always has a smile on his face. We look at Lord Krishna in our images in our Balavihar. We have smiling pictures of Lord Krishna all over the place. Lord Rama, Hanumanji, Bhagavan Ganesha. Always, even if you take Jesus Christ in his most critical moments, he still, has that aura of peace to himself. So the greatest expression of completeness in the universe is the Creator. Now, bringing it to yourself, when are you most complete? And the practical person would say when we're sleeping, right? We're the most complete when we're asleep. But it's a negative completeness in the sense that there's no responsibility. See, many times people say, isn't it better to be a dog or a cat? They're always living in the moment. They're always happy. But what responsibilities do dogs and cats really have? Being complete as a child is quite easy. Someone else feeds me, someone else clothes me, someone else drives me to wherever I have to go. I don't have taxes or anything like that. But to maintain the same level of completeness with responsibilities, that's real then. So, when are you and I most complete? Yes, sleep, but at an active level, right now. When we are in satsang, we are most complete. At 10:30 a.m., let me rewind. At 7:30 a.m., when you wake up on Sunday, you are least complete. Why? Another Sunday, it's so snowy. I wish someone just sent an email that's cancellation day. Check our website. I was studying our Niagara and Pittsburgh. We haven't canceled one class in Niagara Falls this whole winter. I'm not saying that you should either. I was telling Sheila, it's because you drive for a much farther distance than our Niagara people do. Anyways, I shouldn't make such such comments. So 7:30, incompleteness. And as the time going on, frustration, bitterness, isolation, the kids are saying, why do I have to go, 10:30, it's at its peak. But at 12 o'clock, it's completely changed. No frustration, no bitterness, no isolation. Gratitude that I had the opportunity to be in the presence of so many people who are trying to be better. It's the case with all of us. That why did I think like that? Because now I'm happy I had this opportunity. Like going to the gym. Waking up to going to the gym is the low point. Then it just keeps getting more frustrated. And when you show up to the gym, why am I here? I should just go back to sleep. But as soon as we've worked out for an hour, I don't know why I was thinking that. I should be here all the time. Bhagavan, the Creator, is the embodiment of virtues. You and I, when in satsang, are the embodiment of virtues. Patience. Even if you dislike everything I say, you still have to practice some element of patience while you're here. Vigilance, honesty, discipline, acceptance, aspiration, all virtues. When we chant Pujya Gurudev's 108 names, they're all just different virtues. The one who thinks the truth, the one who speaks the truth, the one who fixes old temples, the one who teaches Gita. All virtues. So, What a family does is give us the opportunity to be virtuous. We can be virtuous without a family, but our ego often tricks us into believing we're virtuous when we're actually not. I believe that I'm being selfless when I'm actually being selfish, and the ego is the best at tricking us in such a way. We see this with Prince Arjuna. How many wise arguments he gives to Lord Krishna about why he shouldn't fulfill his responsibility. And Lord Krishna just silently hears him. He doesn't even listen to him. He just hears him. And he says, you're speaking like a wise person, but you're acting like a child. And many times, a child would say the same thing. Why do I need to go to school? I'm happy. I'll just mow the lawn every day. Why do I need 90s? I'm happy with 60s. Why do you force this upon me? A family is an opportunity. And like we often come across the Proverbs, one person's trash is another person's treasure. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. See, it's not about sight, it's about vision. So my family could be an obstacle, or my family can be a opportunity. And the only separation is the belief behind it. Karma yoga, chemical pill, placebo. We studied in the Monroeville Center, or I think it was South Hills, what is the difference between a ritual and discipline? Right? With discipline, it's the belief behind this that this will help me grow stronger. With a ritual, that's often lacking. I'm just doing, but there's no belief behind it. So it's about the vision. And nothing else needs to be said. If I know that my family is an opportunity for me to develop virtues, I will make it happen. That's it. Getting into more details. What is the virtue that we need in our families? It's the same virtue that we express at the end of our pujas. What do we ask Bhagwan for near the end of our puja? Forgiveness. We need to learn to forgive ourselves. We need to learn to forgive others. Which one comes first? Forgiving others? Forgiving ourselves. Let's have a quick vote. How many of you feel, by show of hands, that you have to learn to forgive yourself before you can forgive others? Okay? How many of you feel you have to learn to forgive others before you can learn to forgive yourself? Okay. You have to learn to forgive yourself before you can learn to forgive others. I met one of our chicks recently who is getting into a serious relationship, his first serious relationship, and he said, I'm very scared about this relationship. He was expressing very sincerely. And what was happening is that his significant other was becoming more and more close to him, but he's never allowed someone to be close to him. And he said he realized because he's never been close with himself. He's always been doing, but never reflecting or trying to understand who he is. And now someone else is coming closer. And he realized, he says, I have to learn to love myself before I can learn to love someone else. It always starts at home. But we never look at home. Like food, right? We never think that our significant other makes the best food. Even though they do. All right? I feel that every person's significant other makes the best food. Every person's significant other is the most beautiful or handsome. And it's not physically. It could be, but probably not. It is the vision behind it. Just like cooking. Isn't your mother the best cook? Collectively, here's an idea that we should do as Chinmay Mission Pittsburgh. There's that book, Chicken Soup for the Soul. We should make a book called Yellow Dal for the Soul. It doesn't matter where in India you're from, but yellow dal and rice, you can't lose. You can eat it all the time, anytime. You don't need to add anything. See, many foods you need to add chutney or spices or achar, but what do you need to add to yellow dal? But it's not the food itself. It's the context. You're at home. You're with your family, etc., etc., etc. We have to begin at home. We have to start forgiving ourselves. And here, a way to remember this is that we are not perfect, and so we will make many, many, many mistakes. Initially, we will make, it's like paying off a mortgage. Initially, you pay a lot of interest and less principal. And as you continue, it's more principal and less interest. Initially, we will make more mistakes, but not care about it, because we won't have that sensitivity. But as we progress, we will make less mistakes, but the mistakes we do make, we'll be highly sensitive about it, and it will hurt us a lot. We've all experienced that, where we say something that even is not that harsh, but I keep thinking about it, and I'll call you and say, I shouldn't have said that, or I don't know why I was feeling that, or why I was acting in that way. That is a sign of growth. Putting it externally. If you go to a restaurant and they take a long time to bring you water or whatever it is, and you get irate with the waiter, the waitress, and you say something to them and they go away and you feel terrible about it, and you go and apologize to them, that shows that you've grown. Many would say, what kind of person are you? But really, you realize immediately that this is not the right way to behave. So it's a small mistake, but we make a big deal of it. That helps us not to even make that small mistake. So we will make lots of mistakes. And we have to realize that the only one who doesn't make mistakes are those who are perfect. And if we're perfect, then forgiveness doesn't even come into the equation. Who can offend us if we're perfect? But we make mistakes. And in family, we make more mistakes. In many stores you go to, they say, lovely to look at, lovely to hold, but if you break it, consider it sold. I don't know if you've seen such signs. We were shopping in Mexico. Some people wanted to buy some stuff. And they had all of these souvenirs everywhere. And you have to walk like this, because if you move in a little direction, everything will break. That's like being in a family, right? It's that any direction you move, anything you say, the way you walk, the way you buy something, someone may take offense to this. Someone may be affected by this. But if you're by yourself, there's no one to hit. Physically, there's no one to hit. Emotionally, there's no one to hit. So a lot of mistakes will be made. And when we are understanding and appreciative of that, we come to forgive ourselves. When we expect ourselves to be perfect, we will only lose. And when I expect myself to be perfect, who else do I expect to be perfect? You. And that's definitely not going to be possible. When we have a lot of expectations of ourselves, we have a lot of expectations of others. When we are honest with ourselves, we come to demand honesty of others. And this is a losing circumstance in the world right now. When someone says, how am I doing? Suppose I was singing right now, and I asked you, so how was I singing? All of you are very good at singing, so you would know that I'm not a good singer, but you may say, yeah, good, you should sing more often. But if you really cared about me, you would say, please, learn from us and then try singing. Now, in which way am I going to grow? In the first expression or in the second expression? In the second one. I learned this in a very harsh way at the ashram. Not about singing. This is in a different way. I learned about who a friend is in an ashram, which is very interesting because I had no friends there. Right? In high school, university, you have so many friends when you're working. Then you go to the ashram and you know nobody. But that's where I learned about friendship. And the two aspects of friendship that I learned, and I say this because a family should be a friend. Our best friend should be our significant other. Our children should be our best friends. Obviously, there's auxiliary emotions that go with it, but that closeness should be there. The first aspect of friendship that I learned, a friend is not someone who is friendly. A friend is someone who is dependable. That they may not be very polite or biased stuff, but when they need us, they are there. And Vedic culture shows us very strongly, our parents didn't give us a lot of gifts. They didn't celebrate, every birthday that we had. And if they did, it was at a small scale. And I'm sure my grandparents, for my parents, definitely not. It's your birthday, work harder. Right? That custom is changing. But at the same time, they may not have given gifts or said you're the best children or whatever it is, but dependable. We will make sure that we are there for you. And now that's changing too, right? 16, leave. Leave or pay rent. Like that. And the second aspect of friendship that I learned was a friend is not someone who's friendly, but someone who will help us grow. Again, in this circumstance, you can tell me I'm a good singer, but I'm not. But if you say, you should practice more, and initially it hurts, but in the long run, it's better. Like exercise, like healthy eating, like not speeding. And initially it's harder to slow down, but in the long term, it's better. It's better for my safety, it's better for my peace of mind, it's better for my tires and gas and everything. Forgive yourself. You are going to make mistakes like everyone else is going to make mistakes. And that's why I said we have to start with ourselves. There's a church sign that I've shared with you before that said, everyone makes mistakes, and they spelled mistake wrong. You have a lot of churches here in Pittsburgh. One day you should just drive around and record all of their signs. One had shared, frustration is trying to find your glasses without glasses. It's so difficult. Like, you try to turn the alarm clock off, but where is the alarm clock? And another one, one of my favorites is, save the Earth. This happened around Earth Day. Save the Earth. It's the only planet with chocolate. So yes, that's a good reason to save the Earth. So we have to learn to forgive ourselves, and then we can start practicing forgiving others. And here, just like we make mistakes, people will make those mistakes back at us. But with others, we tend to become very fatalistic. That you said this to me, now our relationship is done. You did this to me, now our relationship is done. That fatalistic, like people who are hypochondriacs, like all physicians. All physicians tend to be hypochondriacs. And that's why even their family members who are not physicians, they pretend that they're physicians. Who was I was talking to someone recently, and I said, every Indian woman thinks she's a physician. That idea of being a hypochondriac, extending that to our relationships, is that everything becomes the biggest deal when it's not. They made a mistake too. If I made a mistake, they could make a mistake. If I'm having a bad day, that means you can have a bad day too. Isn't it when we're having a bad day, we say things to people that we don't mean? Kids, when they come home and they're hungry, are they very rattled? They'll say you're the worst parent, and why do I have to sleep here, and I'm leaving, and why do I have to do my homework? But as soon as they eat one bite, it's like they've transformed. They went from Jekyll, which is the mean one? Jekyll, right, to Dr. Hyde, or whatever is happening. Completely changed, just by a little bit of food being in one's stomach. So, do you take those emotions seriously? No, because you know that is a temporary message. You don't make it fatalistic, but when it comes to, say it's another adult, we tend to make it fatalistic, but we're not different than kids. Guruji had said that adults are like kids, but with more expensive toys. Or exactly the same. He said, they have toys, we have Toyotas. But we're not that different. So to forgive ourselves, forgive others, and to get into further detail about this. When we interact with others and we're in a good mood, we tend to focus on their strengths. And when we're in a bad mood, we tend to focus on their weaknesses. It is a choice on what to focus on. If we all go see a movie tonight, which we should, but you probably won't be up for it, you have a choice to focus on the screen or to focus on the play of light and shade there. But it's a choice on what to focus on. In the same way, I can focus on all of us being separate, or I can focus on that we're all human beings. We talked about this in the satsang in both centers this past Sunday. So when learning to forgive others is to focus on their strength, on what they've done for me rather than what they haven't done for me. What they've said to me rather than what they haven't said to me. We can go to South Hills and say, hey, it's not like Sanjeevani, and focus on what it's not like, or I can focus on what it is like, and vice versa. So it's just a matter of what am I looking at? And see, where does the responsibility lie? Not on you, or not on the other person. It lies on myself. That's what's awesome about spirituality. It encourages responsibility. That's why Prince Arjuna was not allowed to leave. You have to stay here and fulfill your responsibility. And as householders, that tends to be our thought. We have a lot of preconceived notions of what it would be like if we weren't in a family. When people who are grahastas or people who are sannyasis, they have their own samsaras. They have their own samsara, we have our own samsara. And we feel that if we go over there that, hey, we'll be smiling more. No, that's not true. We'll just get lost in another samsara. Yeah, Pittsburgh's so cold, let's go to Miami. Miami has its own samsara. There's tornadoes, there's hurricanes, there's floods, there's alligators. Yeah, and the mosquitoes, right? Everywhere has its own samsara. So, change one's vision. I'd shared with you about my younger sister's job experience back in the day, for those who weren't there. So I used to do a discussion at my younger sister's place in Toronto. And I would always come half an hour early because I was coming from another class. And we would catch up. And she would say, I hate my job, what should I do? And I said, you only have two choices. Either you change your job or you change your mind. And her response, like everyone's response, would be, good, I'm going to change my job. And I said, that's fine, but 6 months from now, we're going to have the same conversation, and you're going to find something else that you hate about your new job. You're focusing on what you don't like rather than on what you do like and the fact that you have a job. This is really when the economy was not very strong. So just change your vision towards that. Now many are thinking, but how do you change your vision? We all do it, but we do it selectively. We do it according to our convenience. And that's why in Vedanta, vigilance is always encouraged. Vigilance meaning be vigilant about what's happening outside, because then I learned to be vigilant about what's happening inside. See, when we're playing set right now, there are sets in front of all of us. There's 10 adults playing. But when someone else comes in, then they find that set. Because we lose track of that vigilance. We're just looking, but without focusing on that pattern. So we should learn to be vigilant about what's happening outside. And then we will realize, hey, I'm not treating that person fairly because I dislike them. But I've chosen to dislike them. What did they do to me or what did they not do to me? We have to release ourselves from such bias. Fair? Okay. Last thought on this first section of a spiritual family. This will only happen if we want it. Only if you want a spiritual family will these changes take place in our lives. If we don't want it, this will not happen. Like this man who's doing his prayers, he doesn't want to do his prayers. So he's never going to connect to the Creator. But you see this woman that's running, she wants to be with her significant other. So nothing can stop her. And that is following the path of Shreyas. In Shreyas, I am going to go through any challenge because I want this. I'm going to sleep early, I'm going to tell the truth, even if people judge me. I'm going to make this happen. But in the path of Prayas, which is like the path of convenience, everything is very easy initially, but it is not easy later on. A simple expression of that is, I've been meeting a lot of people who have diabetes. More and more it's becoming common that people have diabetes. And once you have diabetes, everything else begins to come with diabetes in the negative. And other than hereditary factors, if we just change our eating and exercising a little bit, which is Shreyas, it's hard initially when there's biasam there and you can have any amount of biasam, it's hard to say no. But if one can do that, then one can eat whatever they want to eat relatively forever. So I was joking with some people today. I'm going to another center and they asked me if I have any restrictions or requirements. And they're very very clever. They sent me last year's email where I wrote no requirements and no restrictions, and they said, "Is it the same as last year?" You know, very very clever people. So I wrote, "Yes, the same as last year, but please encourage the families to not make any sweets." And if you don't give them a reason, then they'll feel, they'll be offended by it. Oh, they'll tell everyone I have diabetes. They'll make something up. Or Sheila, she's very strict with him. So I followed up saying, it's not normal. It's not normal for a human being to eat 3 sweets 3 times a day, but everyone expects me to, right? So then everyone got it. Yes, okay. We understand why about the sweets. But my point is only if I want to be healthy will I send such an email. But if I don't want to be healthy, then free for all. And food, driving, and waking up are universal examples. Whenever we have examples of waking up, we all get it. Whenever examples of road rage, we get it. Whenever it comes to eating, we get it. And why I'm highlighting this, I didn't use any Sanskrit words thus far, have I? And if I did, I followed it up with a simple English explanation. I didn't use the word God very much either. I used Bhagwan a few times, Creator a few times. Is what's being shared that profound? Is it something that you don't already know? That's why I said we just forget. And we need to remember. Which leads me to the last section of what I want to share. We started off this thought, this exploration about this story of a man who's preparing to pray and this girl who runs on his mat and she comes back and he gets angry with her and she questions him. You and I are like that man. That we're in a family, but we don't know why we're in a family. But then which is the symptom. And so it's just hard. We get FBI, we become FBI, frustrated, bitter, and isolated. But now we're focusing on this girl whose focus, her vision is on her significant other. So for us, it's to learn to forgive ourselves and to learn to forgive others, and we feel much more complete. When you've genuinely forgiven someone, don't you feel awesome about it? And when someone's forgiven you, you've reconnected that relationship, don't you feel awesome about that? When Sheila and I get into arguments, and after some time we said, are we friends again? And just the arguments, and it's such a liberating experience, Are we friends again? Just that small message. So that completeness, which is why we have a family, to be virtuous, to be complete. And this will only happen if we want it, which is the last thought I wanted, like this lady. And only if she wants it will she not be distracted by anything else. And it begins with you. Whatever you do, you will radiate around you. In homes where people use harsh words, kids use those same words. I can tell. Just by meeting a group of kids, I can strongly understand what their parents are like, and vice versa. And who's like this and who's like this. And it's not, I don't have no psychology training, but there's that connection, right? What a parent does, it radiates towards the children. So if you want your children to be like this too, it begins with you. Confidently. That this is what I want, confidently. Like many times when I ask people, so did you do your Ra, did you do your Ram, what is the answer to this? How many Purusharthas do I have? Like in Cleveland, I went, how many Purusharthas do we have? And people said 4, and they're like, no, 8. And I said, I just changed my hands, and all of a sudden I broke down all of your understanding of Sanatana Dharma. See, no confidence in their understanding. And not Cleveland, any city, okay? Any city. It could have happened. Last city, that's what had happened. So confident. Okay? Now, this is high level. Now I'm going to get into low level on how to make this more of a reality. Okay? Whenever we meet people and we shake their hands or we say Hari Om and they introduce themselves, and we don't really pay attention to what they're saying. We're more focused on the impression that we're leaving. Like, Hariom, and that person says their name. But if you ask, the next person says, so what was that person's name? Ooh, I don't know, you go ask. You ask them in a very covert way, and I'll just be there and I'll listen. It's like the TED Talk that I sent you recently in the Ivachara. I don't know if you got an Ivachara, that I've been sending for 5 years now. So about a misdirected mind and how that person changes his total clothing and you don't even notice it till he says it. So to remember people's names, people have many tips, many tricks. They write it down, or they'll assimilate it. They'll rhyme it with something like Vast Vivek, for example, or Vicious Vivek. You put it out like that. Here are 3 tips by which we can remember what it means to be a spiritual family rather than just a family. Okay? I'm going to go from long range to short range. Long range. And they're all going to be verbs, is liberate. Liberate the idea of what it means to be a spiritual family. I was conversing with a parent recently who said that their daughter sometimes is apprehensive about going to Balaviar because some of her classmates are there, and her classmates don't see her wearing Indian clothing. Her classmates are only used to seeing her in pants and a shirt or whatever it is. See, this young girl has a restricted view of what a spiritual family is. She thinks only Chinmaya Mission, Balaviar, is a spiritual family. But once you leave that environment, then that's normal family. So you and I have to liberate what a spiritual family is. An example of this is what we're doing now. Have parties, but let them be sattvic parties, where there's some element of satsang in it, even for 15 minutes. I'd said for a graduation it should be social, but let there be a small component of Vedanta. Play games like this. This $12 game we can all play for 2 hours. Right? Why do we have to spend so much money and indulge in so many ways? Like Yellow Dot. Right? Liberate and make this normal. This normalcy it doesn't blend with us, but to make a spiritual family normal. And it starts with us, we ourselves. We tell our children not to be like this, but we have, like I often joke, we have our Chinmaya Mission friends, we have our work friends, we have our neighbor friends, and we never have the same parties. You have to have many parties to accommodate these people. What will this person say to this person? What will this person say to this person? But why not just have that vision that there's just friends? There's a couple I was talking to who are returning from the Vedanta course, and they're afraid. They're afraid of what will happen to them when they re-enter their... And I myself, they were saying, you didn't know what to say. I said, your normal life. And I said, what you're doing there and what you're doing here, you don't think that there's a distinction. The only difference is there it's easier to remember, and here it's harder to remember, so you have to work harder. Just like Lumosity, for those who play Lumosity, the pinball game, you keep advancing levels. It's not you just keep playing level 1 over and over and over again.
That's what's happening.
You have to keep on going and keep on raising your BPI and so on and so forth. So liberate the idea of a spiritual family. You need to make it normal. Make it cool even. Right? Go and watch movies and talk about the Vedantic message. Play games, have debates. Make this a family affair. On birthdays, go and serve in a soup kitchen. Like that, whatever it may be. Okay? Liberate. The second is and what I mean, I wanted to be more specific, is every week you should have one sattvic party. So a Friday night or a Saturday morning, Balaviar doesn't count. Okay, that's just sattvic party. So invite everyone and every week have one satsang just for 90 minutes even. No food involved. And everyone gets together and get to know each other. Talk about how Vedanta has affected your life. And when you hang out, your children hang out, like what's happening upstairs. When Sheila and I crossed the border, they asked, so what are you doing? And we said, we're going to visit family friends. And they're like, family friends? They don't understand what that is. But you have to explain to them, our parents are friends, so we've become friends too, like the people we're going to meet. See how it's not normal in such a culture, but in our culture it is normal, so Liberate, the idea of a spiritual family. That's weekly. Daily, integrate. Integrate a spiritual family. Spend 20 minutes on your body, 20 minutes on your mind, and 20 minutes on your intellect every day as a family. So, go for a walk for 20 minutes, or go swimming for 20 minutes. Join a bowling league, whatever, maybe not you, but 20 minutes, do something for your body as a family. 20 minutes for the mind, whether it's just listening to bhajans, or singing bhajans, or listening even to TED Talk that is insightful. My 20 minutes for my mind when I'm at home is reading Ishwara Darshan. When I'm not at home, it's watching a TED Talk, an insightful one, not just a casual one. Because at home, I don't like to travel with materials I don't need, so I don't bring that book, but my computer's always with me. So there's my 20 minutes for my mind. 20 minutes for the intellect, which can be japa or contemplation. Just all of you sit in the same room and 20 minutes of quiet time. And it's different because everyone has different work schedules, but if you really want it, you will find a way to make this happen. And even if you split it up, 20 then and then 40 later, or whatever it is, but every day, 1 hour towards self-development. It is a sad state of affairs if we cannot dedicate 1 hour to integrating our personality. We're willing to commute 4 hours, we're willing to sleep 8 hours, but we're not willing to, wanting 1 hour of self-development. See, integration and dharma are the same. They're synonyms. Dharma is that which integrates. And we have these notions of dharma studying the Vedas. But the purpose of studying the Vedas is to integrate the body, mind, intellect. So body 20 minutes, mind 20 minutes, intellect 20 minutes. Do it as a family. Like the puja we did today. I was telling Sia, I said this puja is very simple because it has to be done every day. 10 minutes. If you do this for 10 minutes and you sing a bhajan, 2 Gurudev bhajans for 10 minutes, you've done that aspect of integration. It's very possible. So liberate, integrate, and so that's weekly, that's daily. Hourly is dedicate. That every activity we do, we should dedicate that activity. Every major activity we do. So for cooking, for example, dedicate. Surgery, dedicate. Driving, dedicate. Bathing, dedicate. Driving, dedicate. Every major activity, just chant Brahmarpanam before that. Say Om Namo Narayanaya or Om Namah Shivaya, Swaha, whatever it is. The words are not important, but dedicate. What I try to do, and I'm only sharing what I'm trying to do to show you that this is not just theoretical. Every time I enter a bathroom, it doesn't matter what bathroom, I shut my mind down from any other thoughts other than japa. So I may have the most important thing to think about in the world, but once I'm in a bathroom, no thoughts. So brushing my teeth, showering, etc., and that's a lot of time then. You know, in a day, suppose you go use the bathroom for an hour. Imagine doing 1 hour of japa. And we're already so busy, we can't find time to do a specific japa. This is great. That's where this dedication. Keep driving, but change the vision of driving. Keep eating, but change the vision of eating. Whatever we do, change the vision of doing that. Keep writing tests, but change the vision of why you're doing that. Then we'll be like that lady who's so lost in her significant other. You and I will still be with our significant other, but we'll be lost in dedicating this to the ideal of the Creator. I will still go to work, but for the Creator. I was saying in South Hills that we want you to dedicate your income, but not all of your income. You give some income here, you give some income there, you give some income there, but wherever you're giving your income, remember you're doing it for God. So even when you pay with your credit card at Walmart, you're doing this for God. When you pay for gas, you're doing this for God. When you donate, you're doing this for God. Because we have this notion that I have to do all of this in one direction, but that's not practical. What's amazing about this hourly dedication is that everything we do becomes spiritual then. And I stop using the word spiritual because it's just living. It's just living for life. To augment all of this, to make a further study of this, Srimad Bhagavad Gita's chapter 4, shloka 24 to 30. Lord Krishna, in 7 shlokas, highlights 12 different habits that you and I can pick up, where we don't have to change what we do, but only change how we do it, and we will begin to purify our mind. It is an awesome section of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, beginning with Brahmarpana. That's what sets the model. And then he says, when the sense objects hit the sense organs, treat that as a form of purifying the mind. When you practice swadhyaya, daily study, that will purify your mind. Being disciplined with your eating, anna yajna, that will purify your mind. That you're not eating for enjoyment, but you're eating to live. So read that section, and this idea of a spiritual family will become even more real then. Okay? We'll conclude with our prayer, and I'll stop the recording, and then we'll do a 15-minute Q&A. And I say this because, politely, if someone says something that's not politically sound, then we don't want to share that publicly. Only amongst ourselves we can be sexist, racist, etc. So we'll conclude with our prayer. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.